All right, it's time to have a discussion. Will the 49ers be impossible to stop this season? You can say no. It's just a fair question to ask after what they did to the Pittsburgh Steelers today. This is our nighttime show, 49ers 30, Steelers 7. I hope that you came with good questions because I will attempt to answer the good questions or most of them on this show. This is the Pittsburgh hotel room, by the way. You can see the river behind me, maybe even a little bit of the bridge behind me. The light on the other side, like that neon light, that's on the other side of the river. That is the old train station on the other side of the river, where I understand they have a beautiful brunch. Like it's this old ornate train station. Pittsburgh's got all this glorious architecture from yesteryear. Maybe I go there for brunch tomorrow morning. I'm doing a pizza tour in Pittsburgh tomorrow. I'm breaking down the 49ers win, and I'm going around suburban Pittsburgh, and I'm trying out really good pizza because I guess they do pizza really well in this area. I'm tired of downtown. I've done downtown here in the central area for the last 24 hours or so, and I'm ready to hit the suburbs tomorrow to check out pizza. So hit the subscribe button. There's going to be a pizza tomorrow that I'm going to try that I've read about that comes out of the oven piping hot, and then they add cold provolone cheese, kind of grated cheese on top. And I heard that the temperature differential is heavenly. And I can't wait to try it. And I'm going to have maybe a 49ers salary cap thought, or probably a thought from this crazy win today. And, I say crazy liberally here. It wasn't like this was some kind of insanely entertaining game that everybody's going to remember forever because it was such a back and forth affair. But, I say crazy from the perspective that, a lot of people, including me, thought that it would be a lot closer. I thought the 49ers were clearly more talented than the Steelers. But I also thought that the fact that this game started at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, combined with the fact that it was a road game, this is the Steelers' first home opener week 1 since 2014 because they have such scheduling issues here in Pittsburgh with Pitt and the high school teams using that stadium. They normally don't get the Steelers in there week 1. So I thought, just the emotional surge of Pittsburgh getting that home opener, they would have the crowd behind them, combined with the fact that Pittsburgh finished last season 6-1. I mean, this was a media darling, right, in the offseason. And I still think they might be on the upswing. I did not see the 49ers just coming in and completely sucking the life out of them the way that they did. But that's what happened, 30-7. Now, it wasn't the only blowout of the NFL weekend. The Seahawks also got their asses kicked by the Rams, who the 49ers play next week. And I just turned off the game, and I started this show a little bit early. The New York Giants are down, 40-0. Maybe it's even worse now to the Dallas Cowboys. So I get it. Blowouts do happen in the NFL. They don't always happen. They're not usual, but the 49ers were part of the 3 blowouts. I think there were 3 around the league this year. And I never like to read too much into anything, which is why I'm simply posing the question, because the 49ers have a track record, right? The 49ers have been to 3 of the past 4 NFC championship games. They've been to a Super Bowl. We've been talking about this roster as being the most talented roster in the NFL the whole offseason. And they added Javon Hargrave. So we know that like the baseline is here for the 49ers to impress a whole heck of a lot of people. It's undeniably there. So when they come out and they deliver like they did here in week 1 in a game that many of us, I think probably all of us, I'm sure there were some 49ers fans out there that thought this was going to be a blowout. But as far as people that try to prognosticate some of this stuff, like me, I thought the 49ers were going to win. I didn't think that it was going to be 30-7. And when they do it in the fashion that they did, for example, there was a moment in the game there where the 49ers had 186 total yards and Pittsburgh had 1. When you do it in that kind of fashion, you're going to turn heads. And, this leads me into what I wrote about today. The 49ers had a play today that I thought was emblematic of a great many things. The article is up on the screen there for you. The headline is How the 49ers' Perfect Execution Sprung Christian McCaffrey's Touchdown Run in Pittsburgh. The link is in the description, so go ahead and check this out. What I did today is I walked into the 49ers locker room after the game, and I wrote an article on just one play. One play, that's it. And it was Christian McCaffrey's touchdown run. Why did I do that? Well, because it was perfectly executed by the 49ers. Check out this screenshot from the broadcast. I'm sure you might want that to take up the whole screen. I will oblige you. Is that a little bit better? Yep. So we can't play the video due to copyright issues, but we can show you a screenshot. There's Brock Purdy handing off to Christian McCaffrey on the right. This is within a second, right after the snap, maybe within 2 seconds. There is a hat on a hat everywhere. This is a standard zone blocking play where you block the guy in your zone. It's as simple as that, but simple doesn't necessarily mean easy. As you can tell, Spencer Burford, I'm circling Spencer Burford with my cursor. He's already out at the second level. He's 3-4 yards downfield blocking a linebacker who's much lighter than him and therefore should be much quicker than him, but Burford gets a hat on a hat. Good job. Colton McKivitz hat on a hat with a defensive lineman. Aaron Banks hat on a hat, defensive lineman. Jake Brendel hat on a hat, defensive lineman. Where this gets truly impressive is down at the bottom. That's Trent Williams taking out Minkah Fitzpatrick. Minka's one of the best defenders in the game. Trent Williams also happens to weigh 111 pounds more than Minkah Fitzpatrick. So conceptualize that in your head. This guy weighs 111 pounds more than Minkah Fitzpatrick, yet he is still beating Minkah Fitzpatrick to the spot. Trent pulling out here to his left. That's the C gap that Trent Williams is opening up. Kyle Shanahan asks his linemen and his wide receivers to do more difficult blocks in the run game than any other coach in the NFL, and it's not even close. That's a very difficult block for Trent Williams. And then if you see to the right of Trent Williams, that's Alex Highsmith, a really good edge rusher. That's George Kittle having to take out a really good edge rusher. Now, where this became truly special is in the fact that Kyle Shanahan asked Brandon Aiyuk to do 2 things on one play. He asked Brandon Aiyuk to down block Alex Highsmith to help out George Kittle, but just for a second or two. Because what happened here is that within about, I would say, 4 seconds, within about 4 seconds of Brandon Aiyuk faking this block, Brandon Aiyuk was doing this right here. Left side of the screen. That's 15 yards downfield. So you go from Aiyuk faking a down block against Alex Highsmith at the line of scrimmage to pulverizing a Pittsburgh defensive back 15 yards downfield within 4 seconds. Just conceptualize that for a second. That's what Kyle Shanahan asked of Brandon Aiyuk. So, yeah, Trent Williams gets a really tough ask on the play. Trent Williams has to find Minkah Fitzpatrick, a player who's over 100 pounds lighter than him, and he has to eliminate him for the play. It's really tough for an offensive lineman who's over 300 pounds. Williams is special. He does it. All right? Brandon Aiyuk is asked to do essentially an inverse. He's a receiver who's much lighter than an edge rusher. He has to down block the edge rusher to help out George Kittle for just a split second, maybe a second or 2 at most, but I think only about a second when I timed it up. And then Brandon Aiyuk is asked to sprint forward and be part of a upfield blocking brigade, and it happened to be the upfield blocking brigade for Christian McCaffrey. And Brandon Aiyuk went ahead and did this. He flattened the defensive back. Kind of like Minkah Fitzpatrick got flattened by Kyle Juszczyk 4 years ago. That seems to be a 49ers Steelers tradition. Anyway, my main point is that Kyle Shanahan is asking the 49ers to do a lot when they are in the run game. This is the 49ers are trying to zag while the rest of the league is zigging. The rest of the league is downsizing. The 49ers are trying to punish them by running the ball down their throats. The run obviously ties in with the 49ers pass game. I hate to say run sets up the pass because oftentimes the 49ers will pass to set up the run. It's symbiotic. And I thought today it was truly symbiotic because Brock Purdy was lethal in the intermediate game again. Brock Purdy was very accurate in the short game again, and the run game clicked. Christian McCaffrey had 152 rushing yards. It's the most he's had as a 49er. His previous high was 121 against the Raiders last year. When it's all clicking the way that it is, the 49ers have this run game ceiling that is above any other team in the league because of what I just illustrated. Because they are asking their receivers and their offensive linemen to execute blocks that other teams don't ask. of their receivers and their linemen. And I thought that I just illustrated the X's and O's there for you. The 49ers ask heavier linemen to block much lighter safeties, and they ask lighter receivers to block heavier linemen, and then they ask the receivers to hustle their ass off and block downfield in aggressive ways that other teams just simply don't ask of their personnel. How do I know that other teams don't ask this? Well, because I've talked to people around the league. I talked to 49ers players, and I watched Juwan Jennings piss off opposing defensive backs with his blocking style so much that he draws personal foul flags. So, I mean, the 49ers truly are zagging while the rest of the league is zigging. And that's why the question below me is one that's fair to ask. If the 49ers are clicking at all cylinders, and I don't think they're clicking at all cylinders today, but I think they showcased little glimpses of clicking on all cylinders, like the play in question that you can read about, how the 49ers' perfect execution sprung Christian McCaffrey's touchdown run. When that's happening, I'm not sure that the league is equipped to defend them. I got a friend from elementary school who's a big Rams fan who just messaged me right before we went on. And he was like, the 49ers look really, really scary. He's hoping the 49ers take it easy on the Rams next week. And, when you have a team playing complementary football the way that the 49ers do when they're at their best, and we saw that today, offense and defense. I mean, offense is balanced to begin with, run, pass, right? But then the offense feeds the defense, and then the special teams not only doesn't screw it up, but also accentuates the performance like we saw today. When you have a team playing complementary football, that's almost a rarity in today's NFL. I mean, the salary cap has created so much parity that you have teams that are good at one thing or the other. To have a team that's good at everything is rare, and that's when a team is a title contender. And that's why I thought today's performance from the 49ers was so noteworthy, because they did so much well today, right? Again, across the board, they did a lot well. Now, the 49ers didn't do everything well. I will say this, and this is an interesting kind of caveat. This is something that we should absolutely keep in mind, because I think it also helps bolster the 49ers case as far as being a true Super Bowl contender. They dominated even though they had 11 penalties today. They dominated even though Colton McKivitz gave up 3 sacks to TJ Watt on the right side. So there were warts on this 49ers performance, and I'll criticize those right now. If you want me to do it right now, we'll go through the warts. But I think the big picture is that despite the warts, the 49ers dominated. It's kind of like, despite the fact that Trey Lance didn't work out, that was obviously a massive risk that didn't pay off for the 49ers front office, they still have a good roster. Two things can be true at once, right? You don't have to be perfect, but the results can still be desirable. And in fact, in football, you should probably brace yourself for not being perfect, because that's how this sport works. It's organized chaos. But if you can find some sense of organization in the chaos, even the missteps will be forgotten, because you're shooting for overarching efficiency. And that's what the 49ers found today. Speaking of overarching efficiency, where do we have this? Right here. Here we go. Overarching efficiency for the 49ers. This is Brock Purdy versus Kenny Pickett today. Expected points added per play. Now, EPA is going to be a much more sophisticated way of measuring efficiency. It's going to factor in down and distance, what a quarterback does relative to down and distance. So if it's 3rd down and 6, then a 7-yard gain is going to mean a whole lot more than a 5-yard gain, obviously. But the 7-yard gain in terms of raw statistics on 2nd down and 10 is treated the same as that 10-yard gain on 3rd and 6. Well, obviously, a gain that helps you move the chains or get closer to moving the chains is more valuable than garbage yardage, one that doesn't. That's the simplicity. That in a simplified nutshell, that's how we explain EPA, DVOA. They're going to measure such things. So you want to be, if you're Brock Purdy, in the green. You want these bars to fill up closer to the right than to the left. Purdy's EPA per play today was very good. 34 drop backs. He was adding 0.27 points of value on each drop back. If you multiply the two together, Brock Purdy in the drop back game today added 9 points, 9 expected points, because yardage on the field relative to down and distance is worth a point value. Meanwhile, his contemporary, his opponent, Kenny Pickett, 53 drop backs, was extremely inefficient, negative 0.33 expected points added per drop back, which meant that Kenny Pickett lost 17.5 points of expected value over the time that he was spending passing the football today. So there was a major delta in between the efficiency of the two quarterbacks. One that was 18 plus 9, about 27 points, maybe 26.5 points. And the 49ers ended up winning this game by 23 points. So the quarterback play was the difference. Now, obviously, there are other factors behind the quarterback play. The 49ers, it's never just one person. The 49ers snuffed out Kenny Pickett with their defense, and they obviously helped Brock Purdy with their skill position weapons. But all a quarterback can do is be efficient within the structure around him. Jimmy Garoppolo did that when he was healthy with the 49ers. Brock Purdy is doing that when he's healthy with the 49ers. The 49ers have won every single game that Brock Purdy has finished with an intact elbow. Let that sink in for a bit. 9-0 every single game. The only one that they lost was the NFC Championship. He is executing Kyle Shanahan's system the way Kyle wants it executed. We can talk all you want about Kirk Cousins becoming available in free agency this offseason, but if Purdy keeps on delivering performances like this, the 49ers won't even bat an eye in Kirk Cousins' direction. He is playing as quarterback one. The doubts of Brock Purdy were silly this offseason. I understand waiting for his injury timeline to crystallize, but after his injury timeline crystallized, some of the criticism that Brock Purdy took this training camp was a joke. Trey Lance deserved a lot of criticism because Trey Lance wasn't playing nearly as well as Brock Purdy. But the way that some people try to reframe this was a complete joke over the offseason. And I'm glad that finally we have the situation crystal clear in front of us. Brock Purdy is an efficient quarterback. It doesn't matter that he throws an interception every once in a while in a training camp practice if it's done within the context of improving efficiency on game day. And efficiency on game day is where Brock Purdy has delivered. For those of us who reported it accurately over the course of training camp between Trey Lance and Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold, we see exactly why the chips have fallen the way that they did. They've fallen this way because, well, the 49ers want efficiency at the QB position, and they're getting that through Brock Purdy, and that's all within the context of Kyle Shanahan's offense. So anyway, that's efficiency. The 49ers dominated even with 11 penalties. Crazy. Some holding penalties on the offense. There might have been a false start. Was there a delay of game today? And there obviously was the personal foul called against Diamador Lenore. That was the only drive on which Pittsburgh scored in this game. Brock Purdy is indeed back, though, for the 49ers. Okay, so I've gone through all of that. Now I'm going to go through a 49ers Q&A. I'm going to answer questions in the context of this game. I think that it's a fair question to ask, the one that I did at the top of the show. Can this 49ers offense be stopped if it's firing on full cylinders? And today it seemed that they were in midseason form with the run game, which is typically something that it's taken a longer time for the 49ers to find, right? We talk about them hitting their stride in the NFC Championship game in January 2020 against Green Bay, but it took a while for the running game to hit that kind of lethal stride that did seem unstoppable. Today, when you talk about the play to Christian McCaffrey that I wrote about in great detail, the 49ers hit all cylinders in week one. Now, they didn't hit all cylinders throughout the whole game, right? They slowed down a bit offensively as it went along, but it was a hot start. It was a whole lot better than what we've seen out of this team last year offensively when Lance was the quarterback in week one in the monsoon in Chicago. It was, the 49ers there, it was hard to judge the 49ers because it was such a discombobulated mess in the rain. But in general, the start as a football team as a whole today was so much more complete, regardless of conditions, right? They had a few impressive things they did defensively last year in the first half against the Bears, but then they still started giving up big plays. They might have been flukes, busted coverages, whatever you want to call them. You could blame the monsoon. The 49ers were not nearly as impressive start to finish in week one of last season as they were today in Pittsburgh. So 49ers Q&A, shall we? Let's go for it. I'm ready. How about you? TJ Watt is very good. Andrew has a good point. TJ Watt is a stud. The 49ers need to do a better job of play calling against studs like that. More double teams and more assists from the backfield. Yeah, so as soon as Colton McKivitz gave up his third sack of the afternoon, George Kittle was helping with TJ Watt. And I think the 49ers kind of crawled into a max protect shell. Nothing wrong with that. You're up 20 plus. And one thing, though, you do have to give Colton McKivitz a little bit of that trial by fire. You need to see what you have at that tackle position, because the trade deadline, if you get desperate at that position by the end of October, the trade deadline is then, right? It's at the end of October. And you need to actually, TJ Watt's a great proving grounds opportunity. It's a great opportunity as a measuring stick for Colton McKivitz. And yeah, you don't want to see him get beaten time and time and time again. But the 49ers definitely avoided that, because after the third sack today, they went at the max protect. They helped him out with George Kittle. And to be honest, this was an efficient offense regardless. I showed you Purdy's stats. So despite the fact that Colton McKivitz did give up a couple of those sacks earlier in the game, and then that third one later, after which the 49ers shut it down, despite that, they were still churning the ball offensively. So that means that Colton McKivitz was winning reps against TJ Watt. He wasn't losing every single one. He was losing too much, but he was still winning some, and the 49ers have a baseline now against one of the best edge rushers in the game. They can analyze Colton McKivitz's performance, and they can see, okay, where does he need to improve? How can he take the next steps? How comfortable do we feel with him? And this is going to be I guarantee you, this is going to be a constant monitoring process for the 49ers, because right tackle did look like the biggest weakness on the team today. Yeah, I think Burford had 2 false start penalties, right? He definitely had 1. I'm trying to think. I think he had 2. I haven't watched the replay of the game yet. That's next. I figure I'll talk to you guys. I'm going to answer all of your questions. Then I go watch the film. If I'm lucky, I sleep. Tomorrow I'm going to eat a lot of pizza around Pittsburgh. I'll lift weights in the morning. I'm going to analyze the 49ers, and then I'm going to hop on a flight to San Francisco. So I will get back to you on the exact amount of false start penalties for Spencer Burford. So many questions. Thank you. I can't get to all of them, though. Flora says Drake Jackson's going to have 15 sacks this year with this defensive line. Well, you know what? We should see if Dennis wants to come on. And text Dennis, Drake's dad. That'd be fun. I just texted Dennis Jackson. If Dennis is available, we can talk to him about the game. That'd be fun. And maybe we could take some of your questions. Dennis, proud dad today. Son Drake, 3 sacks after only having 3 all of last season. Now, Drake is stronger this year. He's added some weight, but he's maintained speed. And according to Nick Bosa, who watched a lot of Drake Jackson over the course of his holdout, he's much technically better. That's one thing I want to talk to Dennis about, if Dennis is able to hop on the show. I think that would be cool, because as far as, I mean, everybody in the NFL is big, fast, and strong, right? Not everybody, you know what I mean? Like, you have a lot of physical talent in the league. But if you can get the details down, and Bosa's so good with his hands, that's what he picked up from Larry Johnson at Ohio State, and then John Bosa, his dad. Before that, I mean, from his brother. Every step of the way, Nick Bosa has been able to perfectly refine his game to turn into this pass rushing machine. So if you can be good with that, and you combine it with the athletic gifts that somebody like Drake Jackson has, well, the sky is the limit. And then you could add in another ingredient on top of all that, and that's how overpowering this 49ers defensive line is. I mean, let's go through some stats from this line today. And I don't have the advanced stats yet. That's what I get tomorrow. So we're going to go through that tomorrow when we grade all the players and do all that good stuff. But I mean, Drake, obviously 3 sacks. Hargrave had 1. Hargrave, did you guys see him knife through the middle there? He's got such quickness for a guy who's such a big base. He's going to do some damage for the 49ers this season. And Kerry Hyder had a sack. I wanted to see the tackles, though. How many tackles did the 49ers have on Drake Jackson? 3 tackles, 3 sacks. Nice. Cleveland Farrell, I thought, had a nice game. 2 combo tackles today. Bosa had a pair of tackles. Hyder had 1. Kinlaw had a stop. I remember that. Now, here's one thing. Eric Armstead, a 0 on the stat sheet, no tackles. He had a huge impact on the game today. The interception to Charvarius Ward. Pickett threw that with Armstead and his arm right in his face. That was a classic example of the pocket bending a little bit through a double team. Armstead was fighting through two guys. And as that pocket was, bending backwards, Pickett had enough time to get rid of the football. But Armstead's, like, his arm length and his ability to displace rushers even while engaged with two blockers, and combine that with his height, is so prodigious that it's impacting the play. I mean, the guy, even if he's not on the box score, is impacting the play and is helping his teammates. It looks like Dennis can come on right now. So hold on. Let me invite him, and we'll get Dennis on. That should work. So we'll wait for Dennis to come on. We'll talk. I'll answer a few more of your questions while we're waiting for him, and it'll be good. I mean, this is my conclusion. It is way too early in the season to say anything. But the question, the context of my question is, we know that the 49ers, when they are clicking with a run game and an offense in general that plays differently than the rest of the league, we know when that offense hits its stride and it's healthy, people haven't been able to stop it, right? It's taken injuries to stop the 49ers. Last year was case in point. The fact that we saw that offense, at least in prolonged spurts today, I think begs the question, can this team hit that mode this year? Right? There's a reason I do a full show and I don't just do a headline. The headline is meant to draw you in, right? The headline is meant to start the discussion. So, yes, it's too early to definitively answer the question, are the 49ers impossible to stop? But it's not too early to start discussing the dynamics which can make the 49ers impossible to stop, many of which showed up on the field in Pittsburgh today. T.O. definitely did block. Remember Garrison Hurts 96-yarder? That was week 1 of the 2000 and that was 1998. Week 1 of the 1998 season. 96-yarder in overtime against the Jets. Terrell Owens was blocking his ass off, sprinting downfield. Reminding me a little bit, right? Today you saw Ray McCloud sprinting downfield. I mean, but when Owens did that for 96 yards, today McCloud might have run a good 60 or 70 because he had to come from maybe even more, because it was a 65-yard run coming from the opposite side of the formation. So maybe a good 80 yards or so. I mean, Ray McCloud on that diagonal was busting his tail. But yes, T.O. did block back in the day. Yeah, people are very happy Ray's black. I asked Ray McCloud, yeah, you're back. And he's like, yeah, I'm a different breed. Dennis is here. Let's get Dennis on.
Oh, man. Hey, how's it going, man?
Oh, it's going great. It's going great. We're on our little post-game show. I'm in Pittsburgh. I'm in the hotel room. So everybody, this is Dennis Jackson, Drake's dad. 3 sacks today. And he had 3 all of last year. What was it like watching that?
Man, it was well, this is like the first time I've ever watched him on TV. So I didn't get to go to the game today, and just seeing it, bro, it like brought tears to my eyes, because it was like, man, I've never seen my son on TV. One, it was like, my son is really on TV. You know what I mean? So I was more like overjoyed than anything.
Well, I mean, and from the very start, one thing I noticed Nick Bosa said after the game is he's been watching tape of Drake during the holdout. And he said that he noticed that Drake was just technically better. Everybody knows Drake's gotten bigger and
right.
and stronger, and he still has maintained the speed. But as you're watching him, did you notice today in Drake's game that he just feels a little bit more comfortable with, how a veteran looks at the NFL level?
Well, I noticed in the last preseason game, and I was like, I said, son, I'm proud of you. I said, you're really moving around real well out there. And so He's like, thanks, Dad. It's more to come. And I was like, okay, I'm ready, man. You know what I mean? So, I was telling him too. I was like, man, don't be afraid to give your body and lay out, for a sack. And so he really did that today too. He laid out a couple of times for that sack.
Let's go through the sacks. The first one was early on in the first quarter. I remember Armstead kind of just ripped through.
Right.
And Dennis, you're a former defensive lineman. I was talking about this before you came on. Armstead doesn't get enough respect.
No,
Yeah,
it's funny that
go
you said
ahead.
that because I was talking to his dad today, and I was like, it's because of your son that Drake got those sacks. I mean, like the defensive tackles don't get as much as love as everybody else because they're taking on double teams every play, and they got to get the push and to rotate. I mean, to have the quarterback scramble out. So it definitely was because of at least two of them were because of Armstead. So yeah, I definitely give him his credit. Man, I told his dad today.
Yeah, that's awesome. Gus, right? Gus
Yeah,
Armstead,
yeah,
good guy. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, on that first sack, we're talking about from Drake, Armstead just blew up whoever he was who was facing, and Pickett then rolled to the left. But I thought, on that play especially, Drake obviously won because he busted into the backfield. What stood out to me with Drake is that he's bigger and stronger, but he's moving just as well as before.
I think the thing that stood out to me too more is like when he was in college, he would push the lineman back into the backfield. And I don't know if you noticed that first play, he pushed the guy like at least 5 yards in the backfield, and like he could have took the inside route, then he took the outside route and still made the tackle. So, but yeah, he's so I could tell too. It's a big difference. He's so explosive now.
Is he having fun playing also with Javon Hargrave, one of the
Oh
best
man, most
interior
definitely.
guys?
Well, I told him too. I said, man, that's gonna enhance your game. It's crazy because him and Hargrave, they have the same agent. So we was telling Drew, his agent's Drew Rosenhaus, but we are telling him like it's just gonna make his game that much better. But Ormstat and him together, like it's just like free run. I think Bosa would have had a couple of sacks too if they didn't hold him. You know what I mean? But those guys make a big difference. I got a kid right now at Fresno, and I always used to tell him, I mean, you're not going to get the glory in the middle, but I'm telling you, it's going to pay off for you. And he ended up going to Fresno. He started as a freshman, so he's doing well right now.
Yeah, Fresno State. I grew up near there. I grew up in Visalia. That was my team growing up, the Bulldogs.
Oh, okay,
So he's
yeah,
playing for Jeff Tedford now, huh?
yes, sir, yeah.
Nice. What's his name?
Gabriel Lightfoot.
All right, we'll keep.
Yeah, he's the first freshman to start there in 25 years.
Oh, and at a nose tackle like spot, right? Or
Yeah, nose tackle. Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive because that takes some real man strength.
Oh
there
yeah,
on the inside.
He's been having men's strength since 16. I want to say at 16 he was benching 400 pounds. So,
well, I mean, we saw Pittsburgh run a 3-4 today against the 49ers, but I mean, this is the flip side of it. D-line looked great, but their O-line today in the run game handled that 3-4 and those bigger. I know Cam Hayward got hurt today, so we didn't see too much of him. But boy, what did you think of the 49ers offensive line? I've been breaking down the McCaffrey run, hat on a hat everywhere.
No, yeah, they look amazing. They were very gelled. I think the only play I seen that was bad was the one play that Burford went offside, but they were hitting on all cylinders today.
They were. And what's special is that they, I know you came aboard watching Drake last year as a rookie. They really hit their stride later, right? And that's been kind of a common theme.
Yes.
So you go back to 2019 when they went to the Super Bowl and they destroyed the Packers. They hit their stride, but it was late in the season. Today, I saw signs of that in week 1, which to me was eye-opening.
I noticed in practice, I was like, those guys are really good. They're going to really gel together. They gel real early. So they did really well today.
You upset you didn't make it out to Pittsburgh?
Nah, I did, man. Those flights were pretty steep. It'd have been good for just me, but my wife want to go, the kids want to go, so I'm like, we'll just watch it at home today.
Yeah.
This was actually the first time I've ever sat down and watched my son game like without going to it and see it in live.
So I mean, it must have been otherworldly then. You're watching it through TV for the first time, and he explodes for those 3 sacks. Were you guys going nuts or?
Oh man, I think my wife posted it, and I'm like, I'm jumping up and down. And I'm like, man, I couldn't believe it. Like, but it's at the same time I'm jumping up and down, like tears are coming out of my eyes. Like, it's funny because my daughter, she calls me, "Dad, are you okay?" And I'm like, oh, I said, I think I'm at my older age. I'm getting a little soft.
Well, we have a lot of viewers right now because it's after the game. But I know you come on the channel before, wrote that big article after Drake was drafted. You got a cup of coffee with the Raiders. You tried out with the Raiders,
Yes, sir.
and you've been Drake's coach essentially his whole life. So you were a
Coach,
defensive
his
lineman
trainer.
yourself.
He has no one else. I've been his coach, his trainer, everything. So, I mean, besides his other D line coach in high school, but and in college, but yeah, I've done all his training for him.
And it all kind of comes full circle now. You get to watch it. You're wearing Niners stuff, which is crazy. Remember when this all started? You were wearing only the Raiders stuff. The best was at the Raiders game last year. You're like waving to me from the stands, and you had your split jersey, right, or a split hat.
No, I had a 49er jersey, Raider hat, and
Yeah,
Raider pants. Yeah.
yeah. So you were able to, and that was a hell of a game, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was real unreal because, like I said, he told me I'm gonna do something special against this game, and he pulled it off. He got the interception. So
Yeah.
and that it actually turned the game around. So
you've played before. You played on the D line. How hard is it as a defensive lineman? Because Drake did this in the preseason, right? Where I think they ruled it incompletion, but it was still one of the most amazing efforts I've ever seen. He tipped the ball up into the air, and then he dove and he caught it. But how hard is it to see a ball that is up in the air when you got a helmet on as a defensive lineman?
oh, it's very hard. It's like sometimes I say he does stuff that's just unreal. It's freakish, and you know what I'm saying. And that's one of the freakiest things that he's ever done. I'm like, how do you do that? I've seen him do it in high school. I've seen the video, but just for a big man like that to get up the field and turn around, look for the ball and catch it, it's unreal. It's just unreal.
We come into your neck of the woods next week, right? Yeah,
Yes,
you're
sir.
going to be there for sure. Yeah, it's
Oh,
a
yeah,
it's a hour drive at most, right?
Last year we had 40 people that went to the game.
I don't even want to know how much that costs to get into SoFi.
Everybody paid for their own ticket, but yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I don't want Drake to be on the hook for that, but yeah,
Right.
40 people at SoFi. That was the Christian McCaffrey game, right, where he threw for the touchdown. Yeah, he made history. And the Rams looked. I don't know. Were you able to watch all the games today since you were at home?
I didn't watch all of them. I got to watch highlights, but I seen them play. I seen them play today. Beat up on
the Seahawks.
Seahawks, yeah.
I haven't seen the highlights yet. I'm gonna watch all my tape right after this. What did that look like?
It was in Seattle too, so it was like them versus the crowd and everything. But they look good, So.
And they're playing without Cup now too. So Stafford is just throwing to some random guys, and I guess McVay's scheming it up. Could be a good battle next week.
I think so. I think it'll be a good battle. I think that the way that defense looks today, it's unstoppable. I'm like, just to hear just to see the Pittsburgh fans, they were so excited just to get a first down because they didn't get a first down for a long time.
Not to the sixth possession. It took them 29 minutes.
Yes.
They had, I was just kind of joking. I was on Twitter. I'm like, oh, Pittsburgh has finally crossed 0 yards because they had, after Drake's sack, they had negative 10 yards.
Right.
And it took them over a quarter to get past 0 from negative 10. It was, you see that in high school football when there's a team that's way overmatched, right? You see it in college football. Your Trojans beat Stanford. That's where I went yesterday. They just kicked their ass. It was a mismatch, right? You don't see mismatches like that at the NFL level for over a couple drives.
Not at all. And then I want to say they shut them out the second half. They
did.
Yeah.
You can make an argument that Pittsburgh wouldn't have scored at all had they not flagged Diamond Lenore at the end of the first half. Yeah, which was an iffy call, right? It was kind of like but that one drive was all that the Steelers were really able to sustain.
It was 2 penalties that got them that close to the end zone.
Yeah, you're right. There was a third down later in the red zone where they called, I think, illegal contact.
Yes.
And it gave them a new set of downs because they had a chance to stop them on downs.
Right.
And I thought they were going to, and they didn't. It was just, it's one of those things where it's interesting because the 49ers defense was suffocating them, right? 5 possessions. And as soon as the Steelers got a big play, it seemed like it took the 49ers and the penalty, it took the 49ers a few plays to kind of get
Right.
their swag back.
Right.
Does that happen? When you're on DV, you're shutting somebody down, but then you're kind of shell shocked by the first big play.
I think it's just by penalties. Like once you work so hard to get where you were, and then a penalty stops you, it just messes with your mental a little bit.
Yeah, because I mean they were just playing like down. They were everything that Pittsburgh was running. It looked like they sped up Pickett within 2 plays of the game. He was
Right.
his processing wasn't there. One last thing with the defensive line. The pick, the Charvarius Ward today.
Yeah.
Did you see Armstead just push the pocket and then he got that wingspan? He's 6'7". His hand just got in his face and Pickett couldn't see.
I teach it with my D line. That's another part of defense: getting your hands up in the passing lane, taking away the passing lane. Now he has to throw the ball even higher to go over your hand, and it goes up now, and so it's just a defensive play to me. You know what I mean? It's a weapon. Get your hands up in the passing lane. I always tell my guys that.
That's awesome. Well, Dennis, thanks so much for joining. Where can people find that shirt, or who made that shirt? That thing is nice.
Drake's girlfriend had somebody make it, so I can find out though. But we have a few merch. You can go with Custom Chris. Custom Chris, she has the shirts. They're similar to this though, but I'm not here to sell the shirts, but
No, it's just a nice shirt. You wore it on the show. I was like, ooh, that's cool.
Oh yeah. I had to represent today. You know what I mean? I can't wear no other for the 49er stuff, but it has to be my son. So
that's awesome. Well, that's Dennis Jackson, Drake's dad, friend of the show. Dennis, great catching up with you here for a few minutes. Thanks for spending your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Take care, man.
All right.
Dennis Jackson. That was fun. I'm glad that he had a little bit of time there for us. It's 8:47 back on the West Coast. It's 11. It's almost midnight here on the East Coast. This is crazy. But anyway, let me get back to some of your questions. We'll go through some of them. Gosh, there's thousands of questions. This is nuts. Well, yeah, Dennis got a cup of coffee with the Raiders. He got a tryout with the Raiders, and that made him a Raiders fan. And the only thing that stopped Dennis from being a Raiders fan was his son getting drafted by the 49ers. Oh, yeah, the 49ers have a new second-half shutout streak going. Last year, they had that going for several games, didn't they? They had it going for like 4 or 5 games. So we'll see what they can do to the Rams next week. I don't know what the line is. What's the early line on 49ers Rams? I'm curious. Breakout. It was really awesome, though, that we got Dennis Jackson on right after his son's breakout game. I mean, Drake Jackson had 3 sacks today. 3 sacks. I mean, we're talking about a 49ers bookend for Nick Bosa. How badly do they need a bookend for Nick Bosa? The bookend had 3 sacks today. That's exactly what the 49ers need. I don't care if he's single team the whole time. That's the point. When you have Bosa on your team, when you have Hargrave on your team, when you have Armstead on your team, that creates a platform for the bookending edge rusher to go out and build his confidence and build up sacks. And nothing is going to build up more sacks, more confidence than 3 sacks. I mean, this is exactly the way that the 49ers drew it up today. Joey Nichols says it's on the Levi's South for the 49ers. Yep, they're heading down to the stadium where they outnumber the home team's fans consistently. This is another streak that can continue. The Steelers, teams are 0-14 last year, the week after playing the 49ers, because they were so bruised by playing the 49ers. Will that streak continue next week? 49ers are 6.5-point favorites next week. Seems about right. I need to watch the tape of the Rams against the Seahawks to know what the hell went down. It's possible the Rams are a little bit better than we expected. It's possible the Seahawks are worse than some people expected. It's also possible that week one was just playing tomfoolery with everyone. It's probably too early to make definitive judgments on teams that are less known quantities, right? Like the Seahawks and the Rams. The 49ers are known commodity. The 49ers are a team that it's been to 3 NFC title games in 4 years that I think would have won the Super Bowl last year had they stayed healthy at the quarterback position. 49ers just had to go and show us that they're the same team that they've been in the past, and they certainly did that today. Look, it's Sam Darnold chiming in. Sam Darnold's a Jimmy Garoppolo fan. So did Jimmy Garoppolo win the game with his legs today? I didn't get to see the highlights yet. I know the Raiders won. I know they beat the Denver Broncos. So Jimmy Garoppolo's team beat Russell Wilson's team 17-16. But I haven't seen, and I know the Raiders are like running out the clock there at the end. I don't know exactly how it went down, though. So I'm actually really excited to go watch the highlights of Jimmy Garoppolo against the Denver Broncos. And this was another big 49ers development today. Jake Moody. I mean, he becomes the first kicker since Justin Tucker to go 3 for 3 in his rookie debut. Now, none of the field goals were overly hard. The conditions were good. It wasn't windy out there. That's all fine and dandy. But Mike Tomlin tried to ice him twice. Might have tried to ice him 3 times, but he ran out of timeouts. So, Jake Moody, take a bow. Looks solid, perfect on the extra points. It's a big win for the 49ers. Everything that the 49ers needed to see today, besides Colton McKivitz playing better, happened. Right tackle, to me, still a question mark. Absolutely still a question mark. Now they want to see less penalties, all that for sure. But what a start to the season for the 49ers today. Hence the title of this show. You know, they got the forecast wrong yesterday here, too. Didn't rain yesterday. Yeah, they said initially earlier this week it was 70% chance of rain. One thing that I know now, since I spend so much time in Nashville, it's where my wife is from, is that the weather outside of California, when they'll predict thunderstorms, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Sometimes there will be a thunderstorm. Sometimes it'll be perfectly clear, and it changes like from hour to hour. I understand we're not in Tennessee right now, but, well, I mean, we're not that far. We're like 480 miles from there. And I think the weather here with the humidity is kind of similar. It could be unpredictable. Yeah, a lot of people did overreact on Moody. I don't think we overreacted here. I said, let's just wait and see him kick in the regular season. I mean, people, it's an adjustment. NFL stadium, NFL, you know, people say, well, the speed of the kick is similar. Theoretically, the snap, the place, and you know, the hold and all that is similar from the college level to the NFL level, but you got the very best athletes at the NFL level. They're a little bit bigger up on the line. So the guy that, you know, the rusher is maybe going to get on you a split second faster in the NFL versus college. That kind of stuff all matters in a game of minutia, and it is a game of minutia for kickers. So the first time lining up on an NFL field in the preseason, the kicker can be a little bit off, and I think that was the case with Jake Moody. This summarizes the Jimmy Garoppolo experience. He was too expensive for the 49ers. They wanted a quarterback on a rookie deal. He moved on. He made the money that he deserves. Good for him. They're 1-0. And the Raiders have a nice looking edge rush this year, too. So I think Jimmy Garoppolo can win some games for the Raiders. Good job raising your son, Dennis. Dennis Jackson, Drake Jackson's son, father, was just on the show. His son is Drake. And if you missed it, then make sure you rewind and check it out. Was that the correct ruling on the lateral? I couldn't tell in real time. I'm going to watch the replay of the game, and I'll get back to you. That was a sick play, though. Talanoa Hufanga, who's been coached and mentored by Troy Polamalu in the house that Polamalu didn't build, but Polamalu, that was Troy Polamalu's house today, gets an interception. Then he had some flair by trying to pitch the ball backwards, but the officials said that it was a forward pitch. I did see that Jimmy Garoppolo put up some nice numbers, and I'm really looking forward to watching some of the tape. TJ Watt is really good. Put Colton McKivitz to the test, and Colton's going to have to use this as a growing experience from today. All right, those of you who are aboard right now, this is the article that I wrote today. How the 49ers' perfect execution sprung Christian McCaffrey's touchdown run in Pittsburgh. That article is in the description. So definitely go and check it out, because this is one piece, over 1,000 words, where I zero in on one play. The blocking assignments for everybody. Fascinating stuff. It makes a solid case for thinking that the 49ers are in midseason form already. And you'll understand 49ers football and how Kyle Shanahan schemes stuff if you check it out. I believe it's still $1 a month for The Athletic, so be sure to take advantage of that right now. Also in the description, we have this: how the 49ers paid Nick Bosa huge money, all while surging to number 1 in cap space. I broke down Nick Bosa's deal in detail right here, and I'll talk a little bit about it right now, because to me, this triple bonus structure, this is something we actually predicted on the show during the run up to Nick Bosa's contract. We said the 49ers would have to spread out the cap hit over 3 different bonuses, because the bonuses are what spread it out. That's the only way that they would be able to stay cap sustainable. They did exactly that. So you have to check out this Nick Bosa article, because I explain how the 49ers were able to execute the sorcery that is paying Nick Bosa record money while also opening up salary cap space in 2023 while doing so. They not only opened up the money through Bosa, they opened it up through restructures for Eric Armstead, for George Kittle, and Trent Williams. Those 3 players all saw contract restructures. Through those contract restructures, the 49ers are now playing with $42 million in cap space. So they can make upgrades to this roster if they need to. They can also roll over the cap space to next year, when they're going to need a lot of it to meet the growing tally and the growing size of bills in 2024. So the 49ers are giving themselves financial optionality. It is a lot to just sit here and explain, especially at midnight on the East Coast, but it is in the description. You can check out that article for $1 a month as well. I sat here in Pittsburgh last night, delving into it, explaining the 49ers financial process. So please do check it out. All right, it's been a good hour, everybody. I have to go get some food before I go to bed here. Midnight on the East Coast. Much more coming tomorrow, including my little pizza tour of suburban Pittsburgh. If you really want me to go check out a spot in Pittsburgh, maybe drop it in the comment section. Maybe I'll see it. Maybe I'll see it, and then I will eat there, and then I'll hop on a flight back to San Francisco. It's been an exhausting day, an exhausting week. I'm just moving from the off-season delirium into regular season mode. But the 49ers went out and destroyed Pittsburgh 30-7. Looked like title contenders while doing it. Hope you enjoyed the show. Sub to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell so you know whenever I'm coming aboard with some 49ers thoughts tomorrow. All right, everybody take care. Thank you very much. Good night.